yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I ended up here, why I'm here. My path here basically started when I was 18 and I decided I wanted to take a gap year and go volunteer somewhere. And, you know, I'm from Vermont, from a small town, kind of a sheltered upbringing. And I ended up in Nicaragua. And I ended up out in Bluefields doing volunteer work with youth who were sexually exploited. And I kind of got to see poverty for the first time. And it basically sparked an interest in me in economic development and, you know, just creating jobs. I felt like out in Bluefields there were this just array of social problems, but a lot of them had kind of as a core, you know, root the lack of jobs, the lack of income opportunities in the community. So when I went to college with that idea, and I kind of studied economic development and studied models of economic development, and I, you know, basically found that the kind of predominant models of economic development have been very successful at creating wealth. You know, there's been an enormous amount of wealth generated over the last few hundred years by the economic system that we have. But I also found that the wealth that was created, or, you know, it had problems. It was kind of an unequal distribution. There was environmental problems, social problems, you know, problems of priorities, sometimes seeming a little bit out of whack. And I got involved in like student labor activism and kind of became interested in alternative economics or alternative economic models. And I was in South America doing a semester abroad and I basically heard about kind of the recuperated factories movement that I mentioned before that was in the movie. And it sounded really interesting to me, and so I decided to go and check it out firsthand, and all of a sudden I found myself in, like, you know, I remember the example that really kind of blew me away. I found myself in the third biggest ceramics factory in Latin America, huge factory, big industrial plant with like 8 lines of production or something like that. And at that time it had 400 worker owners. Now it has 600 worker owners. And it was democratically run and managed, and successfully. And they had a monthly assembly where pretty much everyone came and decided on the big issues. And then they had little, like, you know, consejos, like, at the level of the line to work out production difficulties. And they had, you know, much more equal salaries. It wasn't totally equal, but, you know, it seemed like everyone was kind of, you know, pulling together. And I was just really impressed. I just thought, you know, if this can work, like, why not support it? You know, maybe it can't work. Maybe this is too hard to make work, but I'm in a place where this is working, so that seems cool. And I went on to write my undergraduate thesis about the factories in Argentina. And in the process of writing that thesis, I came across Lasse, who was working with those factories, and I did a Skype interview with Brendan. And he kind of explained the credit model to me, which Sarah's going to talk more about. And it just seemed really cool to me. I thought it was great. And I asked at the end of the interview what they're planning on doing in the future. And he said that they wanted to expand to another country, maybe Nicaragua. And I was like, oh, I've lived in Nicaragua. I know people in Nicaragua. I've eaten nacho tamales. And so he ended up kind of sending me down here to just do a really rough exploration of, you know, how it would work to try and set up a base here in Nicaragua. And I got here basically exactly 3 years ago today, which I think is kind of cool. And yeah, like a couple days off. And this was one of the very first places that I came. I came here for Thanksgiving. And I was sick in that bathroom. And so it just feels really special to me to be here, and, you know, now, and kind of we've got something going now, and kind of come back and bring things full circle. But you know, after doing kind of a broad survey, we decided to go ahead and start and do some pilot loans, and those all went well. I was kind of up in the wilds of Matagalpa for a year and a half, and then we this year moved a year ago moved our office to Leon, and we brought on Scott and our other longer-term staff member Karen, who some of you know can't be here today, but you know, this year we've really focused on building a team and focused on building kind of expanding our base of work and really figuring out kind of what we are doing here. And now we feel like we have it a little bit more figured out, so we brought on Ana Yancy and Vakina 3 weeks ago. which is very exciting. We've also got a bunch more new people kind of coming in, so it's starting to grow, which is exciting. And yeah, so basically I'm here because I believe that cooperatives kind of are more just, but are still very successful, still very competitive. Oh, no, and now it's dead. Just keep on saying, sit down. Básicamente mi historia aquí en Nicaragua empezó cuando tenía 18 años y decidí viajar por un año entre la secundaria y la universidad para conocer el mundo y me encontré aquí en Nicaragua haciendo un trabajo voluntario en Bluefields con unas jóvenes que eran víctimas de explotación juvenil sexual. Y básicamente esa experiencia para mí lanzó un interés muy fuerte en desarrollo económico, porque en Bluefields y en Nicaragua, pero especialmente en Bluefields, yo sentí que muchos de los problemas sociales que se vio allá tenían su raíz en la falta de oportunidades para ganar un ingreso digno, o para ganar cualquier ingreso, especialmente allá, es muy palmado. Y entonces yo me fui a la universidad a los 19, con esa idea en mente que yo quería estudiar desarrollo económico, cómo que los países logran crear riqueza, crear ingresos, crear empleos, cómo funciona todo eso. Y yo estudié economía y en el transcurso de esos años de estudio yo básicamente descubrí que el modelo mainstream, convencional de desarrollo económico que hemos tenido por estos cientos de años ha creado mucho riqueza y ha creado mucho ingreso, ha sido muy exitoso en ese sentido, pero que también tiene problemas. Hay problemas de desigualdad, hay problemas de pobreza en Bluefields y en muchos lugares como Bluefields que no pueden acceder a esa riqueza, hay problemas con el medio ambiente, hay una variedad de prioridades que quizás no son los que yo pensé por lo menos que deberían de ser. Entonces empecé a interesarme en alternativas económicas y yo era un activista estudiantil laboral por los derechos laborales y básicamente me encontré en Sudamérica en el momento cuando estaba fuerte, todavía está fuerte el movimiento de empresas recuperadas y decidí irme a Argentina para conocerlas a primera mano porque yo dije, eso suena interesante, quiero verlo. Y de repente, como una de las experiencias más fuertes que yo tenía allá, era que de repente me encontré en una fábrica enorme, industrial, una planta con 8 líneas de producción, no sé cuántos millones de dólares de capital invertido allá, que tenía 400 socios y cada uno de esos socios era un trabajador y un dueño a la vez. Y yo vi que estaba funcionando, es la tercera empresa de cerámica más grande en Latinoamérica. Yo vi que estaba funcionando, que estaba creciendo, estaba produciendo, estaba vendiendo y también vi que estaba funcionando democráticamente, que tenía una vez al mes una asamblea general donde tomaron las decisiones grandes por votación y yo vi que tenían consejitos en las líneas donde resolvieron problemas a nivel más pequeño y yo dije, wow, si este modelo puede funcionar, ¿por qué no apoyarlo? Suena interesante. Entonces después de eso yo volví a la universidad para terminar mis estudios y en el transcurso de esos estudios yo descubrí a la base y yo hice una entrevista por teléfono con nuestro jefe Brenda que me explicó todo el trabajo y también me explicó el modelo de financiamiento que también me parecía muy innovador, quizá va a discutir un poco más, y yo dije, bueno, me suena funny. ¿Qué está pensando hacer en el futuro? Y me dijo, bueno, queremos extender a otro país que tiene un contexto muy diferente que Argentina para probar este modelo en otro lugar que no tiene nada que ver con Argentina. Entonces estamos pensando en muchos lugares, pero posiblemente en Nicaragua. Y yo dije, ¿en serio? Porque fíjate que yo he estado en Nicaragua, yo he comido unas catamales, yo conozco a gente ahí, estoy muy cómodo en el país, me gusta mucho el país. Entonces básicamente me mandaron aquí para investigar cómo sería abrir una oficina de la base aquí en Nicaragua. Entonces yo llegué, estaba diciendo precisamente hace 3 años, casi el día de hoy,